Today we're going to be looking at how do we factor sums or differences of perfect cubes. Perfect cubes, things that can be multiplied by itself 3 times to make a number, such as 8. 2 times 2 times 2 makes 8. 8 is a perfect cube. So, our goal today says I can factor sums and differences of cubes. Sums and differences of cubes. First, we got to make sure that, hey, both of these things are perfect cubes at the front, looking at our sum of cubes. Once we know that, then I take the cube root of it and I place it here like so. And then I square the first term and I square the last term. And then I multiply the two terms together. We do the same thing if it's a difference. Make sure they're both perfect cubes. Take the cube root of each, square the first term, square the second term, multiply them together. But if we look at this, we will see that, hey, this one's a plus. Notice my signs right here. That one's not a plus. This one's a minus. Notice right here, this one is not a minus. We have a nice little acronym or mnemonic device to help us remember how do we do our signs. Anytime we do things, we have to remember that we always need to use soap when we wash our hands. So when I do my signs, the first sign that we put in there is the same as what we start with, whether it be a plus or a minus. It's the same sign. The second sign that we get between our next two terms in our second set of parentheses is the opposite sign of what we started with. So if I start with a plus, I put a minus. If I start with a minus, I put a plus. And then the last one says AP, that is always positive. Soap. So let's go put some soap on some problems and see how this works. So coming down here, looking at my first example, I have x cubed plus 125. So that's a perfect cube. Oh, this one's a perfect cube because it's 5 to the third power. So I'm going to go through and put me a set of parentheses here and another set here. First set is a binomial. The binomial is made up of the cube root of x cubed and the cube root of 5 to the third power, or 5 cubed. My first term, I square my x, which is x squared. My last term is my 5 squared, which is 25. And then I multiply 5 times x, which is 5x. And then I get my soap out. I put a plus, I put a minus, I put a plus, and Bob's your uncle. We have factored x cubed plus 125. We could do the same thing even when we get to problems that have all these other numbers in them. So this one right here, this is really 2 to the third power and x to the third power. This one is 3 to the third power. So I make my binomial and my trinomial. My binomial, I'm going to put 2x at the first part. I put a 3 at the second part. I square 2x, which gives me 4x squared. I square 3, which gives me 3 times 3 is 9. I multiply 2x times 3x, which gives me a 6x. Apply my soap, so I get the same sign, that's a minus. Opposite of a minus is a plus, and the last one is always positive. So even as long as we make sure the first term and the last term are perfect cubes, we can do that repeatedly. Now, like all factoring, looking at our last example we have right here, on our last example, well, it's not our last example, our next to last example, sorry, next to last example here, we have, we need to take a greatest common factor out first. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a 2 out of this, which leaves me with x cubed plus 64y cubed. Now I have the sum of perfect cubes. So my 2's are going to be just chilling out front while I go and break those apart. Cube root of x cubed is x. Cube root of 64y cubed, well, 64 is 4 times 4 times 4, so that'll be 4y. Square the first term, that's x squared. Square the last term, that'll be 16y squared. Multiply x times 4y together, I get 4xy. Put my soap on it, some plus, some minus, and a plus. And stick a fork in that bad boy. He is now done. Yay! Now looking at our next one here. Oh. This one here, I have 2 perfect cubes. The cube root of x to the 6th power, that would be x squared. The cube root of y to the 6th power would be y squared. I square x squared, I get x to the 4th. I square y squared, I get y to the 4th. I multiply those two terms together, I get x squared, y squared. Apply my soap to it, a minus, a plus, and I'm not done yet because it's not factored completely. This piece right here, oh, that's a difference of squares. We know how to separate that one out. And remember, we always got to keep them separated. So this becomes x plus y, x minus y. And then I have this piece chilling at the end, x to the 4th plus x squared plus y to the 4th. And now you can put a fork in him. He will be done. Down here at the bottom of the paper, we have a list of a lot of the common perfect cubes, 1 through 10. Occasionally you might have some larger. You can use a calculator to help you find those. Pay attention to how the numbers work together. Think about if they have any greatest common factor or anything else like that as you're going through and working on them. As long as you take your time and remember to use your soap, you will remain healthy, wealthy, and wise. Enjoy.